Hey guys, it's Whip Union, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the German invasion of Poland during World War II that started the 1st of September 1939. So what I'll be talking about is the political ramifications of such an invasion, how it came to be, what Germans' intentions were, both official and unofficial, as well as how it happened. So first of all, why or how did Germany justify this invasion to their own people? Well, their propagandists worked around the clock to justify this invasion, as their main narrative was that Poland was persecuting ethnic Germans living in Poland. Sounds awfully familiar to today. They also falsely claimed that Poland was planning, with its allies Great Britain, France, to encircle and dismember Germany. Now, there is some logic with this, as during World War I, the German population felt like that was being the case, with how Austria-Hungary was split into all of these nations, and with how Germany lost its territory and was cut in two. So there was a real fear by the population at this point, where they wanted to feel safe, and the way they felt safe was if they were back to where they were. So with how they are fearing a two-front war with Poland and France, which they have bad experience in, considering they had just fought a 4-year-long two-front war 20 years ago, they decided that, okay, logically it makes sense to protect our own people in Poland, and at the same time destroy this risk of a two-front war. So that was the propaganda reasons. As for the real reason, was because they wanted the economic and political ramifications of reuniting Germany. At this point, that's all they needed. They needed Danzig and Poznan, and then all of Germany was reunited, and the leaders at Germany during the Second World War would have won their ultimate victory politically. So there was both this idea of undoing the Treaty of Versailles, but the official reason being protecting ethnic Germans. Now, why did they then need a false flag operation to start this war? If they already have this justification by we want to protect these people and all of these things, why did they prepare a false flag operation, which was the Himmler plan? Well, the reason for that is because Germany and Poland made a declaration of non-aggression in 1934. Although it was 5 years old, it was a legitimate declaration. So with this, them being the aggressor of canceling a non-aggression pact would be a big political hit for Germany on the international stage. So for them to be from the aggressor to the defender, they wanted this idea that Germany was the victim rather than the aggressor. So the way this non-aggression pact worked was this false flag operation worked was that not just did they go to a radio station by the border and shoot it up with using their own soldiers, accusing the Polish of doing it, they also broadcasted a radio message to Polish minorities in Germany, asking them to rise up. Now, this declaration kind of seemed something similar to Poland wanting to regain its territories that it prior owned 200 years ago, which was very in line with German mindset. So the German people easily fell for such a propaganda message. So they thought, okay, now we really are in the gutter if Poland decides to invade. Now, after such an operation, Germany now had its own people supporting it. They had a legal justification with the fact that allegedly Poland was the aggressor here, and at the same time, Poland was in a poor position right now, and that is because as Germany started undoing the Versailles Pacts one by one, they knew that they would eventually be next. So to counteract that, they prepared their military and plans for a possible German invasion, which is also why they politically did all they could to gain this guarantee of independence by France and Great Britain. So Poland was in a position where, okay, now we have the soldiers we need to defend ourselves, and we have the allies we need to protect our sovereignty. Now we just need to make some plans. Was called the Plan West, and that is because they also had a Plan East for if the Soviet Union decided to invade, as the Polish nation at this point in time had, for example, East Little Poland, they had parts of their country that is originally Ukrainian or Russian or Belarusian or whatever you want to call it land. So Poland knew that the same with how Germany would want to undo the Treaty of Versailles, the Soviet Union would like to return its old territory as well. So they prepared for both of these incidents. Their preparation for the Western incident is, as we can see, how they wanted to protect the borders and hold back the German advance as much as they could for a possible French and British counterattack and support for them to be able to make the Germans fight on a two-front war, which will allow the Poles to defend itself properly. As the Germans had most of their army here, which would force them to actually pull back a lot of their troops to protect against a Western attack. While the Germans actually had this other plan where they wanted to avoid fighting at the borders and just go straight for the capital, as their idea of a plan was to win the war as fast as possible to prevent France and Great Britain a chance at mobilization, as that would make them fight a two-front war. So they wanted to end the war before France and Britain were ready to fight. Now, the way that this plan worked was for them to push eastwards from the north and the south to kind of make a pincer attack and cut off the Polish army around Poznan, and at the same time attack from the enclave in the north and the puppet state of Slovakia in the south to make a larger pincer maneuver to cut off western Poland from eastern Poland, as well as hold the river line that goes around Warsaw in this area by cutting Warsaw off from the other side of the river and preventing reinforcements from arriving at Warsaw, which would cut down the amount of time they needed to take down Poland as a country. Now, how this actually happened was that essentially Germany pushed for a breakthrough around this area to cut off Danzig from the rest of Poland, after which they pushed further south towards Warsaw. While at the same time they pushed on every part of the front line, meeting heavy resistance around Poznan, as the main army group of the Polish army was centered around here, as well as pushing alongside the river down south and connecting at these areas to prepare defensive positions from the Polish army stationed in the east. At the same time, they also managed to push straight at Warsaw, reaching the outskirts of it within a week. However, the Polish, seeing how they were almost getting encircled from both sides, as they had a pocket of the main part of their army in this area, they decided they wanted to fall back to Warsaw to defend the country. However, the Germans, expecting this, decided that they would fight and try and cut off the army. And they managed to do that, where the first Polish counterattack of the war happened, which was the Battle of Sura, where the Polish wanted to break through the German encirclement of the Poznan army by pushing from the east towards the west, from Warsaw towards the west, and from Poznan towards the east. However, this counterattack didn't manage to succeed, which forced the Polish army in Poznan to surrender, pulling in 170,000 Polish prisoners of war. Now, with how Poland has now lost the main bulk of the army and the capital of Warsaw is surrounded, and finally how the Soviet Union decided to invade in 1939, 17th of September, 2 weeks after the German invasion of Poland, they were forced to pull down south and escape through Romania and Hungary. So the main bulk of the Polish army either got surrounded in the west or pulled out of the country, mainly to Romania, as Hungary was showing alignment to Germany, which made the Polish fear persecution if they reached into Hungary. The original plan was to hold out here in the south until the British decided to support by launching a counterattack. However, with the Soviet invasion of the country, that idea was cancelled, as fighting a two-front war was impossible for them. So they decided to retreat and live to fight another day. The fall of Warsaw itself didn't happen for another 2 weeks, around the end of September, but after which Poland was split up between the Soviet Union and Germany for the rest of the Second World War, until first the Germans invading the rest of the Polish nation as they invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, and then finally Soviet Union taking it back in 1944 as they pushed through and reach the outskirts of Germany. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a great day.